right, good morning and thank you for joining us today. I appreciate that Margie Prop once again is here joining us to provide interpretation. Thank you, Margie. This year, my oldest daughter, Evelina, for the first time in her life, will be able to vote in a general election. And just like a graduation or any other milestone in life, that's a rite of passage in America, and a deeply patriotic one. Democracy is a treasure, and our right to vote, to be able to make our voices heard on issues that matter to us, is sacred. Throughout our history, the right to vote has been hard-won on battlefields, in our streets, and in our courts. We are proud of all the work that our county and state have done this year to make this sacred right even more accessible than ever before. In the midst of a global pandemic, we know that many seek to find safe alternatives to traditional in-person voting, both for their own safety and for that of their neighbors and our dedicated poll workers. While we may miss the pleasure of showing off our I voted sticker on our collar, we are pleased by our community's innovative approach to offer those safe alternatives. Our Lincoln City Libraries are partnering with the Lancaster County Election Commissioner to ensure that if you requested to receive your ballot by mail, you will have a quick and convenient way to return your completed ballot, even if you don't have a roll of stamps handy. More on that in a moment. The Lancaster County Election Commission will begin mailing early ballots on Monday, September 28th to voters who have requested them. I want to thank our County Election Commissioner, Dave Shively, for his hard work to prepare for the upcoming election and for joining us today with more information on how you can safely and conveniently cast your ballot this year. Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Yes, we are very excited to be partnering with Lincoln City Libraries in being able to have another means for our voters to be able to, our early voters to be able to drop their ballots off in a secure manner at all of the branch libraries and the main library here in the city of Lincoln. In addition to that, we are also partnering with the City of Hickman and the City of Waverly, having ballot drop boxes at both of their facilities as well. COVID-19 has certainly created a number of issues for us over the years, and one of the very positive things we have moving into November is having been through this already once this year with the primary election back in May. We're taking the same precautions that we did at our polling sites in May, having masks for our poll workers, shields, gloves, sanitary wipes, disinfectant spray, all types of things, and keeping the social distancing that we'll do on Election Day. But the ability to help make that work even smoother is the ability of voters to be able to cast their ballots early if they would like, instead of going to their polling site on Election Day. We mailed out on August 25th to all registered voters in Lancaster County information on how they could request an early voting ballot by mail. Simply all they had to do was to tear off the top part of this trifold card, fill out the information, sign it, and return it, put a stamp on it, and return it to us. They could also drop that off at our drop box in front of our office at 601 North 46th Street. On Monday, September 28th, our office will mail out over 50,000 ballots already that we've received requests for from voters of Lancaster County. Voters can expect to start seeing those in their mailboxes within 2 to 3 days after that. So at least by the end of the week, next week, voters can remember to, will be getting the ballot if they have requested it. I'll also remind voters that they do have to request it. If you've requested for previous elections, you still have to resend in a request for this election. Voters sometimes get confused and think they've always vote by mail, and they think we're always going to mail it out, but we do have to have a form request returned to us. There are different ways that you can get that form. We have it on our website at www.lancaster.ne.gov/election. There's a form that you can fill out. tells you how to you can return that, whether you want to do it by email, by fax, or by mail, and how to do that. But if you haven't sent in a request and still would like to do that, that's still available to do that. You have up until the close of business on October 23rd, 6 o'clock. We'll be open that day on Friday, October 23rd, for the voters to request for their ballot to be mailed to them. Let's talk about a couple other deadlines that are coming up as well. On Monday, September 28th is the first day we will mail ballots. If people would like to vote in person at our office, however, we would really encourage people to vote by mail. We'd like to limit the number of people voting in the office as possible. If it's easier, more convenient to do it by home. But if you'd like to vote in person at our office early, the first day to do that is on Monday, October 5th. Once you get your ballot, it's very easy. The ballot will look like this. Ballot envelope, the ballot packet that will go to the voters. It's similar to what we've used in the past. You have to sign the ballot on the inside of it. On the ballot that you return, you have to sign the ballot envelope in order for us to be able to count the ballot. One thing that we did that's going to be a little easier for voters is they just can tear this off like this. They don't have to open it with a letter opener. We found that many people use a letter opener and sometimes they cut their ballot. So we tried to change it a little bit, but you'll get your ballot. It is two-sided. Vote your choices on the ballot. There's a place here, it says, voter, please sign here. If you don't sign your envelope, the ballot will not be counted. And there are instructions inside on a lavender sheet of paper, instructions on how to complete your ballot, that I just want to encourage voters to make sure they do that. Once you have completed that, you can either mail your ballot back, it takes one forever stamp, or you can return it to our office at our drop box on the north side of our building, or you can handle it to our office. Since we're partnering now with the branch libraries here in Lincoln, you can drop it off during their regular business hours. However, you do need to walk into the libraries and deposit the ballot in a ballot drop box that is located inside of those 8 libraries in Lancaster, or in the city of Lincoln, or the city of Waverly, or the city of Hickman. The last day, as I said earlier, that we can mail ballots out or have a request is Friday, October 23rd. I'd like to also talk about voter registration deadlines that are coming up, if I can, real quick. October 16th, Friday, October 16th is the deadline for voters if they're going to mail in their voter registration. Let's say they're not currently registered in Lancaster County, or they have made an address change within Lancaster County. October 16th is the last day that mail-in registration can be postmarked. It's also the last day you can register to vote in conjunction when getting your driver's license or applying for any other type of government services. It's also the last day you can register to vote online using our online portal. If you don't make that deadline, then you do have another week to get registered, but however, you have to come to the election office and do that in person, and you have through Friday, October 23rd at 6 o'clock p.m. to do that. If you're going to return your ballot, the ballot has to be returned, so we receive it no later than 8 o'clock on election night. That has to be to our office in person. Our drop boxes outside of our office will be available through the close of business at all the public libraries and at the city of Hickman and Waverly through the close of business on Monday. On Tuesday, election day, you'll have to bring that ballot back to the election office in person. We always have a need of looking for additional people to work on election day. We'll need approximately a little over 1,000 people that work on election day for us. Each of our 195 polling sites, we're required to have 5 people at each one of those polling sites. I'm sure we're going to have a number of people that will continue to have concerns about working, and so anyone that is young and healthy and would like to try to be a poll worker, please get an application into us. We'll try to get you placed somewhere. We've gotten a number of applications, but we certainly we'd love to have a bunch of extras that we have on election day for people that are unable to, for some reason, to show up on election day. With that, That's really all I have to talk about. Just remember the deadlines that are out there. They're so important. It's nothing more frustrating on our end to get an application on Monday or Tuesday after the deadline is. We want people to understand the deadlines. If you're going to vote early, we need to have that request by Friday, October 23rd, and then follow the voter registration deadlines. We want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to vote, but we have to do it according to the state laws as they are outlined. With that, I would like to introduce Pat Leach from the Lincoln Libraries for a few minutes here.
Thank you. We at Lincoln City Libraries are absolutely delighted and pleased to be part of the voting process this year. So we will welcome all voters who come to a library to drop off their ballot. All 8 library locations within the city will be available for ballot drop-off during our open hours. We at the library believe that a strong democracy rests on lifelong education, so we certainly encourage anyone who comes to the library to drop off their ballot, to stay and find something interesting to check out and take home, or to use your library card to download ebooks and audiobooks from the library's website without leaving home. But once again, I just want to say how pleased all 8 of our Lincoln City Libraries are to be part of the voting process this year. Mayor?
Thank you so much, Director Leach and Commissioner Shively. With the actions that are being taken by the state and local election officials this year to make voting simple and safe, we might expect to see record turnout here in Lancaster County. And if we do, we will, of course, have Commissioner Shively and Director Leach and her team and his team, and of course, all of our committed Lincoln voters to thank for that. And for more information on how to make sure that you are able to cast your vote this November, whether you are an 18-year-old voting for the very first time or a seasoned voter looking for a safe alternative to cast your ballot in person, please check out the election calendar posted on the Election Commission website. Again, that address is lancaster.ne.gov/election. And with that, we'd love to open it up for questions from the media.
Mayor Riley with the Journal Star. A question for maybe you or for Commissioner Shively. Is this likely to be, used in the spring city elections?
I'll let Commissioner Shively come up and answer that question, Riley. I have not personally had a discussion with him about that topic. Please.
We certainly haven't had that discussion. Our attempts at this point are to see how this works for this first time around, and if it works, that'll maybe be something that we'll approach the city libraries and the city about doing again in the spring. We certainly want to see how it works for this cycle, and we'll follow up once we get past the presidential election.
I mean, I think one of the silver linings of a pandemic like this is that we are innovating and experimenting at an accelerated rate. And so things that work, things that help serve our community and are effective will stay around long after the virus has been contained.
I have a question from Dale at KFOR. He's asking, what is the prediction for voter turnout in person and by mail?
All right, Commissioner Shively, do you have a crystal ball? I'll let him take this one.
If I knew that answer, it'd make things a lot easier for us, but I will just say that the last 4 presidential elections in Lancaster County, we have been in between 70 and 73% of voters that have cast ballots. That's been where we've been at. And I always look at historical trends when we make predictions, and usually we wait till we get about a week out of the election before we actually make predictions on election. I certainly believe that seeing the early numbers of people that have requested early vote ballots, that we're over 50,000, actually probably closer to 60,000 requests. We have 50,000 that we're going to get out on Monday, but we're probably pushing that 60,000 requests. We had 132,000 people, I believe, vote in the 2016 presidential election. So if we will be in that neighborhood and it continues to grow. I would believe at least half of the voters will vote early, if not a little bit higher than that. In the primary election, we had approximately 70,000 people that cast early ballots. 11,000 actually cast ballots in person on Election Day. I think we'll have more on Election Day, a higher percentage on Election Day for this election than we did in the primary. But we certainly have learned things, and people are more accustomed to precautions that they have to make for themselves with the COVID, as well as our poll workers. Everyone's more accustomed today than we were in May. I think we've learned a lot about the whole process to make things safe. But we will not be making a projection until later, but I can tell you what the historical trends certainly were, and that was in the 70 to 73% turnout for a presidential election.
Commissioner Shively Riley at the Journal-Star.
Yes,
Hi,
right.
sorry, tried to catch you before you left the podium.
That's all right.
Can you just recap, the county's only really had the one drop box outside of your office. Why was that? And kind of, can you just take us through, that?
Well, we had the one drop box, and has been heavily used, and our office is very centrally located, as many people know. We're very close to 48th and O Street, very centrally located. It was a decision that we made. The question always comes up when you try to make a decision on where, if you have additional drop boxes, where you are actually going to place those boxes. And once you start placing boxes different places, people are always going to have 10 other locations they think that we should be at. And so we had chosen to do that. The drop box at the central location, because it was very heavily used, well used. But as we get into this pandemic and more people voting early, we thought it was a better idea to do some testing and seeing how things might happen if we do go different locations throughout the county. And so that's the decision that we made at this point.
Commissioner, this is Becca Costello with NET News. Can you talk about how those early ballots are counted, at what point they will be counted? I think in previous election years, they've been counted, kind of as soon as possible and reported as soon as polls close. Is that how it's going to be this election as well?
Nebraska law allows us to begin the process of opening the ballots and preparing them for counting the second Monday prior to the election. So we'll start getting those opened and ready for counting. And then it allows us, state law also allows us to start tabulating those ballots the day prior to election. So on November 2nd, we will start tabulating those. And you're absolutely correct. The first results that you see on election night at 8 o'clock are usually early vote ballots, because we are not going to do an early pickup of ballots for this cycle. Sometimes we've done that on Election Day, do an early pickup, but we are not going to do that, just simply because we want to keep our poll workers at their location and not have to venture out for this election. So, plus we anticipate a lower number of people voting on Election Day. So the first numbers that you see on election night will be probably any ballot that we've received back at least through Friday prior to the election. Most likely most that we've received on Monday. Depending on how many we receive back on election day, we could have some early vote ballots that will be tabulated the day after the election. But yes, you're absolutely right. The first results you'll see on election night will be those that were received are early vote ballots.
And one other question while you're there, and maybe just stay there for a few minutes. So in the spring during the primary election, because of the number of poll workers who weren't comfortable working, some counties, including Lancaster, utilized the National Guard as sort of supplemental poll workers. Are you anticipating doing that again in the fall, or do you think there's not as much of a shortage for this election?
There's been no talk between us and the Secretary of State's office about utilizing the National Guard at this point. I believe that based on the number of applications that we've received for poll workers, I believe that we'll have a sufficient number. It's a day-to-day thing with us right now. We are going to be preparing our training, which we'll do online beginning next week. But I'm not anticipating the use of National Guard as poll workers, at least at this point, unless something changes dramatically in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Any further questions, either for Director Leach, Commissioner Shively, or myself?
I have a question about, with more ballot boxes out in the community, can you address security with the boxes, drop boxes?
The boxes are all located within the facilities, and while people come in and deposit them there, we don't have someone that's manning them all the time that they're there. They'll be deposited at the location. We will pick those ballots up daily, weekdays, Monday through Friday. We will have a team of 2 staff members of differing political parties that will go out. We'll take one ballot box back and they'll replace it with another. So we will collect those regularly.
There's no way to break in or to steal?
They are all, no, they're all sealed up and secured that way. They'll be on a counter, I suppose, so but there should be no way for someone to steal one.
Any further questions? All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to check out the Election Commissioner's website to find out more, and we'll be releasing more detailed information, but we encourage everyone to examine their options for participating in the general election this November. Thank you so much.
Thank you.